New Orleans signed C.J. Spiller for something other than sitting on the fucking bench.
31 other passes that should have been intercepted with you.
So that's why I have David Johnson on my board higher.
If you're doing a live draft, wait till you're drunk to draft this guy. We welcome you to the Fifth Down.
What up, Fifth Downers? This is Johnny Slokes. I'm your host. This is the Fifth Down Football Podcast. I got my partner in crime, K-Mill, on.
What's up?
And we got another guest today, Elliot Christ. Please announce yourself. Give yourself a little introduction.
I wish it was Christ. Unfortunately, no relation to Jesus, but just Elliot Christ.
Oh.
I work at Pro Football
My
Focus.
bad.
No worries. Work at Pro Football Focus as an analyst over there. Love fantasy football, DraftKings, FanDuel, diehard.
All right. Today we're going to do our Week 3 rankings. There's quite a bit of news and notes. Any guys want to talk about that before we get in there?
So my sleeper pickup this week would be Dwayne Washington of the Lions. I feel like a lot of people are talking about a lot of guys, but Dwayne Washington was already the red zone back, the goal line back, and looked fantastic this preseason. Big, strong athlete, and Riddick is mostly a guy out of the backfield. He could probably have a rough week this week against the Packers defense, but he could be a good long-term pickup.
Yeah, not to mention with that injury to Amir Abdullah, who, is really underwhelmed and, undersized anyways. I think that's a great pickup. I think that you're really getting the guy that's going to be that goal line guy for the Lions, definitely, and then probably going to get the yardage, too. I mean, it's a great pickup. I
think he'll get more of a volume of the carries than Theo Riddick. I love the way that kid runs. He runs low and hard, and he looked pretty good, especially in Week 1. So I think it's actually a really savvy pickup for anyone who's looking for a running back.
Yeah, I'd agree with Theo Riddick for PPR, definitely.
Oh, yeah, you always got to love yourself some Theo. Doug Martin's out 3 weeks. AP's out for the year.
Yeah, Corey Coleman broke his hand today. Wow.
Yeah, the fantasy gods do not like Cleveland.
Yeah.
Did you see everyone who's out this year? McCown's out for a few weeks. Griffin's out. Coleman's out. Josh Gordon is suspended. Cameron Irving.
Do you think there's any chance? Do you think there's any chance they make Terrell Pryor the quarterback?
Well, you know what?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what? Even on top of all that, too, Josh Gordon got I believe he got an arrest warrant today for not showing up to court for a DNA test or something like that. So it's just getting worse and worse for that team.
Yeah, he always finds a way to make the news.
Cody Kessler is probably the worst quarterback in the NFL, so that situation is pretty ugly right now.
I felt like he was a guy that wasn't even supposed to be drafted.
Yeah, he was. I think Kuiper had him in the 5th or 6th round. A lot of people had him a borderline guy. He's kind of like a new alarm quarterback. And in the preseason, he spent his time running out of the back of the end zone. So I don't think the Dolphins' defense is probably pretty strong this week.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. The Dolphins' defense is definitely looking like an elite streaming option this week. But Cody Kessler never really impressed me at USC either. Like he was a very touted prospect. But then I never saw it, and I still don't see it. And I think that he's going to have a rough go of it this week for sure.
Yeah, another sad story is Deontay Moncrief is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with a fractured shoulder blade. But on the positive side, now Philip Dorsett will get some more reps, though.
Yeah, I like that kid. He's a nice speedster.
Yeah, I think Dorsett's a good streaming option this week. He's a cheap guy. I got 7 targets after Moncrief got hurt last week, and they're not going to be playing the Broncos this week. So that should help them out, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think you really got to watch out, like, the matchups for a few next weeks for Indianapolis. They do have, actually, a really nice schedule, but what I'm starting to notice is now they got, like, 2 smaller-sized receivers that if they go up against some big physical corners, they're not going to do so well. So you really got to watch the matchups for those guys.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton has done great this year when he's been away from the best corners, but when he's been when the best corners have covered him, he's kind of struggled. And the Chargers have some. Verrett's a good corner. Brendan Flowers is having a bounce back year, and Casey Hayward's actually a real good slot corner. So the Chargers secondary is better than people think, but you can still put some points on them.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I think that before the season even started, I thought that Hilton was one of my breakout candidates this year. Like he was, I know he's already had a breakout year, but I thought he was going to smash his career highs.
Bounce back.
Yeah, and I really haven't seen it up to now. So, but he has played some tough defenses, so we'll see. But he's still in my eyes a prime. He's obviously Andrew Luck's favorite target in a high volume pass offense, so you can't discount that.
Well, good news for Indianapolis. They play San Diego, Jacksonville, Chicago, and then Tennessee. So,
yeah, a lot more production coming up. Well, you guys want to jump right into it then?
You don't want to talk about Ronnie Hillman getting signed by Minnesota?
I think that's kind of a non-news, if you ask me.
All right, yeah, we can jump right into it. We'll start at quarterback. Who do you like as your number one quarterback this week?
I think that this is a really hard pick for me. I mean, it's kind of a tough matchup, but I think you can't go without Cam Newton this week. He's my number one for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Cam Newton at home is money.
Yeah.
My number one is Drew Brees at home against Atlanta.
Yeah, that's also a good one too because we know how Drew Brees likes to play at home. He's definitely a nice option.
Yeah, I actually got Cam Newton down at number 6 actually.
Wow, that's surprising.
Who would you have?
I got
Aaron. I got Cam Newton.
I got Breeze. I got Aaron Rodgers at home against Detroit. I got Luck playing San Diego. I got a Big Ben over him. Carson Palmer over him.
I don't know if you guys are Evan Silva fans at all, but he tweeted out something today that over their last 16 games, Josh McCown and Aaron Rodgers' stats are identical.
Yeah.
Which is pretty absurd when you think about it.
Yeah, that definitely is.
And that's kind of eye-popping.
Yeah. Rodgers has struggled. And last year I thought it was mostly because Jordy Nelson was out, but Nelson's been back these first 2 games, and he hasn't done that much. But Detroit is obviously a very good matchup.
Yeah, I think on the 5th down we had Aaron Rodgers as pretty much our consensus number one quarterback this year, and he's failed to impress thus far. Randall Cobb looks completely lost. The only guy that's really benefiting in that offense is Jordy Nelson right now. So, yeah, I'm pretty low on him too. My number 2 this week is Drew Brees, so I'm not too low on him. And then I got Andrew Luck at number 3. So, all those guys. I got Luck at 3 as well. Yeah, and then Phillip Rivers, I do like him against that Indianapolis Band-Aid secondary too. So I have him at 5.
Yeah, I have no issues with any of that. I think if you're looking for a higher-end QB that's kind of really failed to impress, Russell Wilson's got a good matchup against the 49ers, who have basically Navarro Bowman and nobody else hanging out on that defense, and they run a ton of plays. But
if you can't get it done against them, then whew.
Yeah.
And he just got his streak snapped of most consecutive games with a touchdown in the NFL this past week.
Yeah. No, and another guy that I think is a nice option this week is is Carson Palmer against Buffalo. I have him ranked as my number 6. It's real simple. The Jets were on Thursday Night Football last week pretty much just having their way with this Bills defense. Like, the secondary doesn't scare me at all. I think that Carson Palmer is going to have a nice productive day with a heavy pass offense.
Yeah, I got Palmer at number 5. I think that Fitz and Floyd are both going to have big games against that defense that hardly exists. So, I'm really liking Carson Palmer as well.
Wait, you mean that highly touted Rob Ryan defense?
As long as Rob Ryan is the coach of that defense, I feel confident with any quarterback for that matter.
Yeah, Carson Palmer really turned it around last week after looking pretty terrible against the Patriots. But it's obviously a very nice matchup for him. The Bills, they don't put pressure on the quarterback, and Darby and Gilmore look like they forgot how to play corner. So Fitz is every year now. Fitz feels like he gets off to this blazing hot start. Palmer follows him, and then Floyd kind of fix it up for the second half. But they can't cover deep, and that's what Floyd does best. So I like the Floyd play a lot.
Yeah, I definitely do. Yeah, he's a nice wide receiver 3 play this week. Definitely. We'll get more to that later, but I also wanted to bring up my number 7, which is a guy that I'm strictly because of matchup. Matt Ryan, he's playing New Orleans defense. We all know the story on that defense. I think that Matt Ryan, who has a high-volume pass offense, I think that he's going to get the job done.
I mean, I got him at number 7 too. I'm a little bit worried about Julio though. Have you guys ever heard anything about his ankle?
Yeah, I've heard that the injury he sustained this weekend was a calf injury, and so it was unrelated to the ankle at all. So, and from everything I've heard, it sounds like he's going to play no matter what.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a pretty tough guy. So
every single week last year, Julio was questionable, and then would go out and put up 150 yards. So.
Yeah, and he said that. I think right after week 1, he said he's never going to be 100% when the season starts, but he just gets it done.
All right, so some of my more fringe quarterbacks I got like this week is I got number 10. I got Blake Bortles. Number 11, I got Derek Carr, and I got Russell Wilson at number 12. Do you see any of those guys that can actually jump into the top 5 this week?
You know, I like Blake Bortles' matchup. I mean, this Baltimore defense got shredded by Cleveland last week, so, you know, I really don't – they're not scaring me at all.
Blake Bortles has kind of been a bit of a disappointment this year too, though.
Yeah, I look for him to pick it up against this Ravens defense, though.
My one concern about Bortles is last year all of his production came in garbage time. Like, I think it was he had 35 touchdowns last year, and, like, all but 6 came with them trailing. Like, it's to me it's a concern. If they're not trailing, he hasn't done much.
Well, and you know what else? It's funny you mentioned that, Elliot. You know, it's it went completely south for him last week against San Diego too, because he was playing for behind the entire game, so he was taking those shots downfield, and he committed a lot of turnovers because last year those were throws that he was getting lucky enough to make, and it just went all wrong for him in San Diego, and it could go that way too. So either he could score a lot of garbage time touchdowns, or he could just throw a shit ton of picks.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see what a lot of people are trying to warn people about Blake. You're starting to see that now this year.
Yeah. Another guy that I like this week too, another fringe guy that neither of you guys have mentioned yet, is Derek Carr going up against that Titans defense that really isn't scaring anybody. So I like him a lot this week.
Yeah, I think their pass defense is underrated, though.
The thing that's scary about the Titans is the way they play the run, and they kind of bleed the clock. And they're really good against the run, so Carr will throw and can take advantage of matchups, but the pace of the game isn't exactly like the Falcons or Saints game that he's coming off of. I think Kirk Cousins, with all that stuff going on this week and possibly losing the locker room, I think he's a decent play this week. He's thrown 46 times back-to-back games and 350-plus yards. If he just gets the ball in the end zone, and he's getting plenty of balls, he's getting plenty of chances in the red zone, I think he and Jordan Reed could have a real nice day against that Giants secondary.
Yeah,
I think they're going to chuck the hell out of the ball.
Yeah, I actually looked up some stats, and I don't remember the exact numbers, but last year the Giants were one of the worst teams against defending tight ends last year, and Jordan Reed shredded them in both the games that he played them against. And, I think that this is going to be a nice bounce-back game for Kirk Cousins, definitely. I think that, there was some rumblings that he lost the locker room or people are getting pissed off. But I think this is the week where Washington gets it done because I don't see New York running away with this division, so they're going to face some adversity somewhere. They're 2-0. I think they're going to get a loss here, and I think Kirk Cousins is going to have himself a nice game.
Yeah, and that Giants offense can put up points, and that Giants run defense has really improved from last year. This year adding Vernon and Harrison, but you can't run on them, and the Redskins don't want to run, so they're probably going to throw the ball 45 to 50 times in this game. And anytime I get any quarterback that's throwing 45, 50 times, I kind of want to take a chance on him.
Yeah, because
eventually the production will catch up with the volume, Yeah. What do you guys see Matthew Stafford this week? I have him number 13. How do you see him against Green Bay?
Yeah, I actually have them around the same place, and I think I'm going to go with them. I mean, Sam Shields is most likely going to be out this week, so they're without their top corner. I think that, this is still a good play.
Thing to note that Matthew Stafford has thrown 2 more touchdowns in 3 straight games against the Packers. So.
Yeah, no, I have no issues playing Stafford, and Shields is a big loss. And the Lions, other than Lions probably aren't going to try to run that much, and Riddick is going to be their number 1 back out of the backfield, and he's mostly catching the ball, so they should chuck the ball a lot too.
Yeah, obviously a quarterback to avoid this week too, and he's a guy that he's been a play for me the first 2 weeks. Is Andy Dalton. He's going up against that Denver defense, and nothing really more needs to be said. I think you really just don't want to start a quarterback playing against Denver.
I'm a little bit worried about Russell Wilson going up against San Francisco. That offense is kind of making me starting to wonder maybe they're not that good.
Yeah, they're really sputtering. In 2 games this year, they've scored 15 points of total offense, and that's a far cry from what they had. I think it's partly because they're trying to force Thomas Rawls the ball, and Christine Michael's been the better back. So I think if they plug him in there, I think it'll get a little more productive. But you got to think about it. Russell Wilson slowed down with that ankle injury. Doug Baldwin's injured too, his top target. So you're looking at a guy, Tyler Lockett, who is was a boomer bust wide receiver 3. Could go up a little bit. I still don't like that matchup at all. I'm scared. If I got Russell Wilson, if I have other options, I'm going to start somebody else.
I know that coming in the year, Russell Wilson is my number 1 quarterback, and that's not looking great for me right now. Along with my MVP pick. Not that that's giving me a ton of credibility right now, but I have to have faith that the 49ers go up there, and that defense is terrible in the pace of play. I think they're finally going to put it all together this weekend, and I wouldn't necessarily say that he's a must-start this weekend, but if you drafted him, you probably picked him in the first 4 or 5 rounds, and I don't know who your backup is, but I'm certainly starting him over Blake Bortles or Jameis Winston or Fitzpatrick or Tannehill or someone like that this weekend.
Yeah, I'd have to look back. I know I had Russell Wilson in my top 5 for the year this year. I mean, he was an obvious choice, but this Seahawks offense just hasn't figured it out yet, I don't think, or whatever. So we'll see.
They are playing the team that they can figure it out against, so that's good.
Yeah, that is good.
Who are some of your guys' favorite streamers this week?
Well, you know what? That's interesting. I think I like, surprisingly enough, I think I like Dak Prescott. He's got a matchup against Chicago, and I think that's a nice option considering that he's shown a better grasp of the offense, and he's been getting better every week. Like, he's even started to form a connection with Dez, so I think that he's a nice streaming option this week.
Do you think he finally gets his first touchdown?
I think so. I like this matchup for his first touchdown.
If I had to pick one guy who's a little on the radar, I would say Marcus Mariota, just because of how bad that Raiders secondary has been. And then if I had to go really deep, and this is a strictly don't do this in your season-long leagues, but if you're doing FanDuel or DraftKings this week and you really wanted to save money, Brian Hoyer, while being a terrible NFL quarterback, is actually not the worst fantasy quarterback going up against a bad Dallas secondary. He's probably going to chuck the ball a lot in that game where they're losing and just chuck it up to Alshon Jeffrey. And he could get, 250 yards and 2 touchdowns and pay off his price. But, again, not season long and then under any circumstances.
I do have one more I do want to mention, though, and this is very, 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 very streaming. This is like if you have, lost your quarterback to injury or, whatever, and you need a nice streaming option this week. I don't think necessarily Sam Bradford has a bad matchup against Carolina. Now, we all know AP's gone for the season. They're not going to get anything done on the ground pretty much. But this is a Josh Norman-less secondary you got to think about. So, and he showed a lot of promise in this Minnesota offense, and he showed some nice chemistry with Stephon Diggs. So I think that Sam Bradford could potentially have a nice game against Carolina. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm just saying.
I kind of like Carson Wentz going up against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's given up 648 yards in 2 games, and I kind of like what I've seen out of Wentz his first 2 games. So I think that'd be a nice little streaming option if you're really in dire need of a quarterback. I know it's kind of a deeper one, but definitely a good option at 2 quarterback leagues too. So.
Yeah, Wentz has looked like the real deal. I think he needs to learn how to slide and stop doing spin moves against linebackers on the sideline. But other than that, he's looked really good.
Yeah, Wentz, he's done everything right as a rookie, not turn the ball over, earn the trust of his coach. You can't say much more than that.
All right, you guys want to jump into some running backs?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready.
Are there any left after all the injuries?
The rankings do look a little bit funny now, but my number 1 running back I got this week is D'Angelo Williams. He's playing against Philadelphia, who does have a top 10 run defense thus far, but he's been getting it done. So he's going to be my number 1 running back this week.
Yeah, I have him at number 1 too. It's really surprising seeing D'Angelo Williams at number 1 again, but
he's the number 1 running back through 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can't argue with the matchup and also the volume and the fact that he's getting continually targeted in the red zone, getting those red zone carries. So he's a good bet to get a touchdown every week. So yeah, D'Angelo Williams number 1. I don't really need to say too much more.
I put Williams at 2 and David Johnson at 1, but I think you're splitting hairs. Williams, last year when he played, he was a running back 1, and this year he's a running back 1. He's always in the game. He gets a ton of volume. He catches passes, and for one last week, he's a RB1 until Le'Veon Bell comes back.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's interesting you mentioned David Johnson because he was a close second for me this week, and I love David Johnson. My love for David Johnson is well known. He's my favorite running back. But yeah, he's facing a Rob Ryan coach defense, and he's David Johnson. So yeah, number 2.
Yeah, I have him at number 2 as well. I am a little bit concerning though, about what if he's going to start losing a little bit more red zone carries to Chris Johnson.
I don't think that's going to happen. Arians called him out on some miscues for some plays, but I don't think so. Chris Johnson's miles away from what I understand, and David Johnson's backfield. I won't hesitate to start him.
And if you look, David Johnson's put up 2 good games without getting more than 16 carries. If he gets a volume game where he gets 25 carries, he's probably the one guy in the NFL that could put up 100 receiving yards and 100 rushing yards and just kind of kill it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do see some higher volume days in the future. So my number 3 I have is you got Elliott. He's going up against Chicago. I know Chicago's run defense isn't as bad as it used to be, but right now I got him at number 3.
Yeah, I think you're copying me, Johnny, because once again, I have the same top 3 as you. I have Elliott at number 3 as well. I think that Chicago is not a scary defense, and I think that Elliott, with his fumbling issues last week, he's going to get it figured out.
Yeah, obviously I'm a fan of him. I wanted the Jets to draft him so I could buy an Elliott jersey, but the Bears lost Trevathan this week. They lost their nose tackle. The Bears' run defense, while it's looked good the last 2 games, kind of going to be a shell of itself. The only thing is there are a lot of grumblings that Alfred Morris is going to start to get more touches and Elliott might lose some. But, if you have Elliott, you got to play him, and he should be a real good play. I have him at 5.
Nice. That's always good. Yeah, and I do agree. I think that Alfred Morris is going to get more work, but I think that Elliott still, from a volume standpoint, is going to justify this number 3 position. Who do you got at number 4, Johnny?
At number 4, I have Lamar Miller. He's going up against a New England defense, but I think the volume's going to be there, and I'm still waiting for him to crack that nice, long run that he's capable of doing, but just haven't really seen him have a real efficient game yet. I think that maybe he'll get it in gear against New England.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to go against the grain a little bit. I actually have a surprise at number 4. I'm going C.J. Anderson against Cincinnati. He's been I think where he's having the breakout campaign that everybody thought he would last year, and he's finally doing it. He's putting it all together this year, and I think that he's a nice play this week.
It's interesting to note that Cincinnati is actually dead last in run defense right now through 2 weeks.
I was going to say the Cincinnati's run defense is still pretty solid, but they've played Forte and D'Angelo Williams, and both those teams have really pounded them, which is kind of shocking when you look at their front. But I guess the loss of Burflick for a while is affecting their run defense. I have Forte as my number 3 guy, just because he catches the ball out of the backfield, and while they talked about getting him 16 touches a game, he's getting 25. And if Marshall's out, that could see him getting a couple more catches. So I like Forte a lot, and that Chiefs run defense got beat up pretty bad week 1, and I know week 2 they held Miller in check, but I think Forte could do some damage against them.
I agree. I definitely agree.
We're not too far off.
Yeah,
I have Forte at number 5, so we're not too far. I'm not too far off.
Yeah, that's where I'm going against the grain a little bit. I got Lamar Miller at number 5. It's for like what you said, Johnny. I really don't need to go into it a whole lot. Lamar Miller, he's going to get the volume, obviously. So if he can break off a couple long ones, I think he's going to have a nice fantasy day. So that's my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is Melvin Gordon. He's going up against Indianapolis, and he's going up into that game without Danny Woodhead. I think that finally it's his entire backfield. So I'm looking forward to him having a nice game against Indianapolis.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that he's definitely in the RB1 conversation this week for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he was a beast at Wisconsin. Last year he struggled behind, basically the 3 of us were blocking for him last year. He couldn't go anywhere. But, everybody's healthy now, and he's showing the first-round talent that he is.
And doesn't he have, 3 touchdowns so far?
Yeah, he has 3 touchdowns through 2 games where he had none his rookie year, and not to mention he hasn't fumbled yet. So I think that this is his breakout campaign.
All right, who do you have at number 6?
Number 6, I have Melvin Gordon, so not too much lower than you. So we don't need to say it. We just talked about it.
Yeah, and I got CJ at number 6, so we already went over him. Who's your number 7?
My number 7. I like Matt Forte. We already talked about him. I'm a little bit lower on him than you guys are, but yeah, it's like Elliot said. He's going to get that work in the passing game. He's going to get the volume. He's going to get it done.
Yeah, and my number my number 7 is DeMarco Murray. He's been getting it done through the air this year. I think that's going to be something that's going to continue. He looks pretty good against Detroit running the ball too, so maybe he's finally figured it out.
Yeah, he's been a pleasant surprise, definitely. I do like how he's getting utilized.
Yeah, I have no issues with Murray. Actually, he looks like a shell of himself, but since the preseason, he's looked really good and rejuvenated, and the Titans are all about running the football. So.
Yeah.
Hey, he's got 12 catches through 2 games.
Yeah, isn't that ridiculous?
Hey, my number 8 is Eddie Lacy. He's going against a run defense that I think he can penetrate. No one wants to get penetrated.
Yeah, definitely not.
But yeah, I mean, they just gave up over 100 yards to DeMarco Murray, and I think that Eddie Lacy is going to finally find the end zone. So.
Yeah, I'm not too much. Well, I'm a little bit lower on Eddie Lacy, but at number 8, I like Mark Ingram. This is an Atlanta defense that really isn't too scary, and I think that he's had 2 underwhelming weeks so far, and people are, doom and glooming him. I think that this is the week where he shows everybody that he's still the guy in New Orleans.
I think Ingram's a fantastic talent. It was amazing last year. The Giants' run defense is a real tough matchup. The only thing that's concerning to me is Cadet is actually playing a lot of passing snaps, and a lot of what Ingram was great at last year was catching the ball. And if they're taking that roll down from him, I think he's not going to have the same year he did last year. I do like him a lot this week. Eddie Lacy, they just need to put cake and chicken and stuff in the end zone, and he'll run for 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He needs to be the McDonald's spokesperson.
I mean, you always got to worry about these kind of games where they can end up being shootouts, and then, like you said, Cadet takes those passing downs, and then you got Mark Ingram getting 11 carries.
The guy I like that I'm probably alone on this is I like LeSean McCoy. Arizona's run defense doesn't necessarily scare me that much, and he's a guy like D'Angelo Williams, not necessarily in terms of production right now, but he's on the field the whole game, and they throw it to him. They give him the ball. Rex Ryan is coaching for his job, and if there's one thing he believes in, it's hitting you in the mouth running. So I'm guessing he's going to get 25 touches in a game where...
You're not alone on this, Elliot, because I'm pretty high on LeSean McCoy this week, too. I actually have him just a spot lower than you, and I absolutely agree. I think that if nothing else, even with, Arizona's sometimes stout front seven, even with that, I think that, you have to agree with one thing. He's going to get the volume. And if he's getting those many touches a game or those many opportunities a game, he has to be in the RB1 conversation for sure.
especially with Watkins not 100%. Like,
Yeah,
they're going to run the ball. We're
We're
definitely going to run the ball, and they're, like you said, they're going to check it down. I have him in RB1, Terry. I don't know if I'm as high on him as you. I got him at number 10, though.
That's fair. I mean, I have him at 8. You have him at 10. We're same ballpark on this one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right above him, I got Todd Gurley. He's playing against another tough run defense, so I'm not sure if I'm too high on him there, but I'm bringing him back into the RB1 territory this week.
Yeah, I have Todd Gurley as my number. No, I got my numbers mixed up. I have him as my number 10. Yeah, once again, tough matchup, but it is Todd Gurley, and all he really has to do is break one long one off to salvage his day. So, and people are starting to rumble about him. Bust this, bust that. I think that when people's backs are against the wall, I think that's when he's gonna really show everybody that he's still the Todd Gurley of old.
I know I looked bad on my Russell Wilson pick to start, but I wrote an article at the beginning of the year about how I thought Todd Gurley was going to be a bust, and I didn't have him as a top 10 running back. Looking good on that now, but I think Todd Gurley, the player, is fantastic. If he was on any other team, I think he's the number 1 overall running back. But that offensive line is terrible. They have no weapons, and they play another great run defense. I honestly don't have him in my top 20. And if he's on your fantasy team and someone's making a decent offer, I would trade him. I would salvage value because I know he's an amazing talent. But even if you look at his last 6 games of last season, he averaged 66 yards a game. So that breakout 4 games where he was running by everybody. I mean, he's got to make 3 or 4 people miss just to get 10 yards, and that's a tough ask in the NFL.
Actually seen in one league where there's a trade offer, Doug Martin for Todd Gurley, that was accepted. So,
Wow,
that's an interesting offer.
Yeah, I would definitely.
I mean, granted, Martin's going to be hurt, but
yeah, but I mean, even then, Todd Gurley. Yeah, we've talked about it many times, me and Johnny, about how, he's a nice Blue Falcon candidate, this and that. He's going to fuck your team over, and yeah, and honestly, he's a great talent. But you're absolutely right, Elliot. It's just his surrounding cast just does not do him any favors. Yeah, if somebody's making you a decent offer, I would definitely take it.
I think the Rams are allergic to wide receiver talent or something. They just haven't really found that number 1 guy yet. So
Yeah,
Austin. I think offensive talent they're allergic to. I mean, they're running out Case Keenum, Kenny Britt, Tavon Austin, Ryan Quick, Lance Kendricks. I mean, those guys are not good.
Household names.
I mean, they had all those draft picks, and they spent them all on defense, and their defense isn't really all that either. Oh yeah, and in Goff, who at one point was a healthy scratch behind a punter. So.
If I'm Goff, I'm happy about being a healthy scratch. I don't want to throw to those guys and get blocked by that line. I'm good collecting checks and not getting hurt right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know who I think is going to have a nice bounce back, season really, in week 3 is maybe not. I think he's still going to lose his job, but I think Devontae Freeman has a nice matchup this week against New Orleans, and I think that even though he's in a timeshare right now with Tevin Coleman, I think that he could potentially. This is a matchup where I would like to favor a guy like Devontae Freeman. I think that he has a nice week.
Yeah, I got him at number 14. I don't have Coleman that far behind him either. I think they're both going to have a pretty good game against New Orleans.
I think so much depends on whether or not we're talking PPR or regular, because at this point he's kind of in a timeshare and most of his value comes to catching passes. But this is a game where running backs are going to catch passes. I mean, this could easily be 42-35, and if you got a guy on the Saints or Falcons, you need to play him this week.
Yeah, we'll PPR or die, baby.
PPR.
All right. So some other guys I have in here is I got Spencer Ware at number 16. He's going against the Jets' tough front, so I have him knocked down a little bit this week. I got the Garrett Blunt at number 17. He's going against Houston. And I actually got Sims all the way up at number 18. So.
Well, some lower options that I think I really like. I know he's going up against a tough defense, but LeGarrette Blount, he's still getting it done, man.
The volume's there.
The volume's there, and not to mention he's the prime red zone guy. Like, they're not going to guys like Kevin White or whoever, or not Kevin White. I'm sorry, James White. Nobody's stealing any red zone work from him. He's like the guy. He's Bill Belichick's goal line back. So he's a good bet every week to at least have a chance to get a touchdown. I know that he's got Jacoby Brisket or whatever the fuck his name is, starting at quarterback. But you still can't argue with the volume. So he's a nice play this week.
The only concern I have with LeGarrette Blount is that every time you think you figure out what Bill Belichick is going to do with the New England Patriots running backs, some guy that we've never heard of, like Jonas Gray, runs for 200 yards, and LeGarrette Blount gets 1 carry. Yeah, I'm with you on all of your logic. The only thing I'm worried about is at some point this year, LeGarrette Blount is going to kind of fall off. So I think he's got a nice game Thursday because they're going to give him the ball a lot. But if you could sell him high, I might do that at some point this year.
Yeah, interesting take, but yes, I do agree.
Yeah, you also got to worry about his health. He's not the healthiest of guys. He's one of those bigger guys, and they get their knees taken out. That's what they're prone to. So.
And he enjoys himself a little smoke session with Le'Veon Bell every once in a while, and that's going to add up to a suspension at some point.
Yeah, Josh Gordon's there too.
I love Charles Sims. I think as a runner, I think he runs similar to like Matt Forte. He catches the ball out of the backfield. And I know they signed Jacquizz Rodgers, but I'm not worried about Jacquizz Rodgers. I'd be shocked if Sims didn't see the ball 20 times between catching and running, and I think he's a good pick.
Yeah, I think he's a nice play this week for anybody that stashed him while Martin was still healthy, and now they're going to reap those benefits. I think that you're absolutely right. I think that he's going to have a nice game as far as volume. He's going to pick up all of Doug Martin's volume, and not to mention, I think he's a better pass catcher than Doug Martin is. So there's that.
Yeah, he's I think at the end of last season, I want to say in the final 8 games, he caught 5 more passes 6 times. So he can catch the ball out of the backfield for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. What about?
It'd be interesting to see what he looks like in a high volume role too. So.
Yeah, what do you guys think about Latavius Murray though at Tennessee? I kind of like that this week.
I got Latavius Murray at number 12. I do like his chances of getting another touchdown. I'm not saying that Tennessee has a weak front by any means, but I think he'll find the end zone.
Yeah, definitely the best front that he's played all season long.
Yeah.
I'm not incredibly high on Murray, but I'm not down on him. I mean, if he's on your team, he's likely a top 2 running back, top 3 running back. I can't see him out of the top 15 this week, so I would definitely play him.
Yeah, and I actually have a guy I want to mention though as a nice streamer this week. Gio Bernard, he's going up against a really tough Denver defense, but it's like we always talk about here. You got the Hill games and you got the Gio games, and I think this one has Gio written all over it. Andy Dalton was having a rough game last week against Pittsburgh, and he went to his go-to guy to get him back in the game, and that's Gio. So I think I like him. I think he's going to be like Andy Dalton's like last-ditch effort, and I feel like he's going to have trouble all day with this Denver defense, and I think Gio's going to be that anchor.
It certainly seems like a Gio game. He's been out snapping Jeremy Hill, so that's a good sign for Gio owners. I'll just say that I do think he'll probably get a good 5 or 6 catches this week.
Yeah, that Denver defense is incredible on the outside, and they get a lot of pass rushing pressure. So, kind of QB's best friend in that situation is going to be a dump off to a tight end or running back, and they don't have a tight end. So the Gio play makes a lot of sense, and I think if we were talking DraftKings or FanDuel, he'd be really low owned this week, and that's the kind of pick that could win you a tournament.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Without a doubt.
If we're talking about really low guys, and I'm probably a week or 2 early on him, but Jordan Howard of the Bears is twice the talent that Jeremy Langford is. And Langford's starting to get himself in the doghouse. He fumbled last week, and Howard came in and looked good. Howard looked fantastic in the preseason. And I think Langford's losing his grip on that kind of dominant ball carrier, and that Howard's going to start to get touches and eventually be the back. So he's probably not a good play this week in terms of desperation. But if you want to pick him up this week and then a couple weeks from now everyone's searching for him on the waiver wire and you look like a genius, I think that might be a good pickup.
Yeah, I was drafting him on a lot of my teams and just stashing him because I had him as the guy where I thought he was going to eventually end up becoming that lead guy over there in Chicago because he is by far the best guy in between the tackles, and he's actually starting to show that he can catch the ball too. So similar talent to Kevin Coleman, a little bit bigger than him, but both come from Indiana and both are explosive guys.
Agreed.
You know, a guy that I like this week I have at number 16 is Isaiah Crowell going up against Miami, who's given up 273 yards on the ground. I think the Crow is going to fly again.
Yeah, I think so too. I just traded him away in one league because I needed a tight end. But I think he's a guy though too. Just as a mention too, because I was thinking about this today when I traded him. You know, he's a guy you want to sell high, and I think that it's just going to get worse for this Cleveland offense. So I would sell him after this big blow-up game. But yeah, I do like him against this Miami defense. I think that he's going to be the one thing that goes for this Cleveland offense. But you also have to remember, after his 85-yard run last week for a touchdown,
he didn't really do much.
He was only averaging, I think it was 3.2 yards per carry. So he really wasn't. He was definitely getting the volume. So if you're going off the volume alone, he's definitely a nice play, maybe a nice flex play.
The only thing that's concerning is that they're 10-point underdogs. And typically in 10-point underdog games, those teams don't run the ball a ton.
Yeah. They're playing from behind, definitely. I can see that.
So that could lead to some Duke Johnson catches. And Duke Johnson, I think, actually might be the better Brown running back this week, just because, I mean, the Dolphins aren't anything special, and their run defense certainly isn't great. But playing with Kessler, they're going to try to keep it on the ground. But if they get behind, which they should, because, the Browns, they don't have any players from their 2012 draft. They are terrible. That game could get out of hand. I think they only have, one player from, the 2013 draft, too, so.
Yeah,
they cut the 2012 guy today.
Yeah, I think that this is the one game that the Dolphins might win all season. I'm just kidding. But, yeah.
If you want a Browns first-round pick, just wait a year and trade your fifth-round pick for them the next year, and then you get them. That's kind of how it works.
Yeah, pretty much.
Are there any other running backs you guys want to go over?
No, not this week.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys that people picked up this week, like Jared McKinnon or Jay Ajayi or people like that, Cameron Artis-Payne or Fozzie Whitaker, I mean, these guys are going to be in timeshare situations against tough matchups, and those are guys I would avoid.
Yeah.
Any of them.
Another thing is, when a running back goes down, coaches are usually going to the running back by committee bullshit, and you gotta remember too, it's gonna let that situation stash him on your bench, but let that situation sort itself out, and then one guy might establish himself as that lead guy, and then if you got that guy, then he could be an every week start. But right now, after just picking him up after a fresh injury in that backfield, not a safe play. So you guys are definitely right on that one.
I think Sims is the only guy that you could trust in that situation in terms of the guy got hurt, Doug Martin, new guy steps up, Sims is going to be their guy.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Sims is probably one of the best handcuffs in the league right now. So, all right, you guys, let's go jump into some wide receivers. My number one this week is Antonio Brown going up against Philadelphia. I think that he's going to have a bounce back game after not really doing a whole lot last week.
Yeah, it's not common that you see a guy like Antonio Brown only score 5 fantasy points. So yeah, absolutely number one. I think he's most weeks he's going to be the consensus number one. So not really much needs to be said.
Yeah, I mean,
who do you got? Go ahead.
I was going to say he killed me on FanDuel last week, but that guy's money. When you throw on the ball, he comes down with it, and Big Ben looks his way. I mean, he got 11 targets last week. You give Antonio Brown 11 targets each week, he's going to come up with 100 yards more times than that. I mean, he's no-brainer, number one every week.
In my number two, he's not in the greatest of matchups, but he's going up against Washington's Odell Beckham Jr. I want to see this happen.
Yeah, I think that it's bound to happen at some point, definitely. But I think that there's one guy that I like strictly because of matchups, and that's Julio. Julio's my number 2 this week. He's going up against New Orleans. Yeah, if you're going up against New Orleans, you got to stream the shit out of your players.
Yeah, I mean, I got Julio too. I actually don't have Odell in my top 5, and another crazy. Norman is the real deal, and they're saying he's going to follow him around, except in the slot. So I think they'll definitely spend time on Odell. Odell hasn't done this year what he's done in the past years, and I think it's because Shepard's getting targets, Cruz is getting targets, Breen's getting targets. I think they're spreading the ball out more than just funneling Odell the ball. I think he's still an elite receiver, obviously, and an elite play. But there are a couple guys I like a little bit more than him.
Yeah, I'm not too far off with Julio. I have Julio at number 3. I think they have obviously a fine game against New Orleans. My number 4 guy is Allen Robinson. I think that he's finally going to play a full game this week. I think that Baltimore defense that just gave up over 100 yards to a rookie, I think that Allen Robinson's going to be back this week.
Allen Robinson in the house. Yeah, you know what? I have DeAndre Hopkins. Well, no, I'm sorry. Odell Beckham's my number 3, but I'll just go into my number 4 because those 3 are pretty much going to be consensus top 3. DeAndre Hopkins is my number 4. Going up against New England, I think that, it's for obvious reasons. He's the number 1 over there. And I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like he's good to get a touchdown this week.
Yeah, I have Hopkins at 3. I have Allen Robinson at 4. I think Hopkins, the Patriots historically have kind of been a team that takes away your number 1 option, but they've felt comfortable putting Butler on him, the number 1 option, and trying to take away the number 2. So I think Fuller has a down night tomorrow, but Hopkins, you can't cover him with one person. That guy's ridiculous. And his catch that got called back is just as good as Odell's catch against the Cowboys 2 years ago. But DeAndre Hopkins is the real deal, and I agree. 2 touchdowns, 100 yards. I don't think that's out of the question for tomorrow night.
Yeah, definitely. I think he might be the star, steal the show tomorrow night. But yeah, Allen Robinson's my number 5. Not much further behind. Like I said, before, this is a Baltimore defense that got shredded by fucking Cleveland. There you go.
Yeah, I mean,
Allen Robinson
is my guy. Allen Robinson, I think, is the guy that whatever league you're in, you're seeing if that guy's panicking.
I think it's a good chance to buy low on him for sure.
Yeah, I got someone to panic on Dez after week 1 and trade Spencer Ware for him. Spencer Ware and Dante Moncrief, and people told me I was crazy, and now Moncrief is out 6 weeks, and Ware's about to go back into a timeshare. So, if you can get Allen Robinson, I would start shopping for him in the next few days, because after Sunday, I don't think you'll be able to touch him.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that he's another guy. Him, Dez, and Sammy are guys that I've been reaching out to people and being like, hey, like if they're freaking out, and I'm totally like, yeah, here you go.
Oh, yeah. If Sammy Watkins' foot gets better, that guy is a crazy talent. And you saw it last year with his 100-yard games and killing everybody for like 9 straight weeks. He's as good as the talent that there is in the NFL.
Yeah.
I learned my lesson after last year. I had Sammy Watkins, and I stashed him on my bench all year because I didn't feel comfortable just dropping him, and it paid off dividends towards the end. So it's definitely not a guy you want to just get rid of. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, getting back on it. I got this week at my number 6 is Jordy Nelson. He's going up against the Choice defense. And I know that he's probably going to draw Slay this week, but at the same time, he has been the only productive member on that Packers offense. So I look for that to continue, and I think that it's hard to predict touchdowns, but I feel like he's a good bet to get a touchdown because he's got 3 through 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, and I got DeAndre at number 6. So my number 7 is Mike Evans, and I got Jordy Nelson at number 8. So we're not too far off. I got Mike Evans at number 7 this week.
Evans has led the league in targets. He's not getting all the catches, but it's coming soon. Vincent Jackson isn't Vincent Jackson anymore, and Evans is getting all the balls. Jameis Winston set him against Patrick Peterson, so he's not scared to throw on the ball. Evans could be big time. And if I can say one quick thing about Nelson is that the thing that people were worried about at the beginning of the year was the pitch count. But last week he played all but one play. So, I mean, Jordy Nelson is back to being a top 8 receiver every week. So that's fantastic. And Slay is terrific, and I'm glad someone mentioned him because so many people don't know who Darius Slay is. But Jordy Nelson can beat Darius Slay.
Yeah, definitely agree with you, Elliot. Another guy.
Yeah,
I like.
Yeah, I want to touch on Mike Evans a little bit more. There is actually a report out of Tampa Bay saying that Jameis Winston's actually going to test this on improving secondary in LA. So that's why I have Mike Evans a little bit higher than I normally would this week.
Yeah. I mean that's definitely not a bad pick. Definitely the volume, and he's through 2 weeks, even in Arizona, he was, I think, the lone bright spot for that Tampa Bay offense in that really nasty loss. So I definitely don't think that's a stretch by any means. But a guy that I really like is Alshon Jeffrey. He's going up against Dallas defense, where everybody's like, oh, it's an improved secondary. I'm not really that impressed yet. So, and we all know that and he's not dealing with soft tissue injury right now, so that's great.
Andrick might be out, so he'll have Brandon Carter on him.
Yeah, and I like those odds, especially when Jeffrey, I think that he does get more targets this week. That's been a gripe from a lot of people. Like, why isn't he getting more targets? I think that's going to happen, even though Jay Cutler's probably not going to play. I think that Brian Hoyer, like Elliot was saying earlier, is going to be a nice streaming option this week, and I think Alshon Jeffrey is going to be a reason why.
That makes a ton of sense. If you look at DeAndre Hopkins' numbers with Brian Hoyer last year, and the Bears, this game could get out of hand. The Cowboys could be up, and the Bears down double digits of chucking the ball around. And Hoyer feeds his number one option. Because Hoyer's not good, and he knows the only way he can look good is if he throws the ball to, say, Josh Gordon or DeAndre Hopkins or Alshon Jeffrey. So he's going to get Jeffrey the ball.
I mean, anytime you have a guy like Alshon Jeffrey, you have a chance to just throw it up and just know that most of the time he's going to come down with it. So you're going to feed him a lot.
Definitely.
All right. I got just outside my top 12. I have Kelvin Benjamin, but I think that he could have a good game if Xavier Rhodes is not able to go.
Yeah, I think that's a great option too. I think that Kelvin Benjamin, he really had a nice game, and he once again proved to everybody that with all the off-season and preseason concerns that he still is Cam Newton's favorite target. So, and that's got to count for something.
Yeah, I'll be the first to admit I was wrong about Kelvin Benjamin. I thought that he wasn't going to be as good, but I'll be the first to admit I'm on board. I'm a Kelvin Benjamin lover now.
I will be the second to admit I swung and missed on that one too, because when you look at his rookie year, most of his touchdowns came when they were trailing by double digits, and he kind of was high in the league in drop rate. But he and all those reports about Devin Funchess was outplaying Benjamin, and Benjamin was going to be a snap count. I mean, I hate all those beat writers because Benjamin ended up falling in the 6th round, and I didn't take him in a single league, and I'm regretting that. But that guy looks like a real deal. The real deal, Cam Newton's number one target. And again, when the Panthers are at home, they score, I think it's like 13 more points a game, and Benjamin's probably as safe of a bet as there is in the NFL to score a touchdown.
Yeah, and you know what? Make that 3 because I was the same way as you guys. I think that a lot of people were really like, Benjamin, and everybody was like eating the Funchess hype. I wasn't really eating that either. I was like, I don't want to make heads or tails of this Carolina offense right now, except for Cam Newton, really. But yeah, no, I'm totally on board with Kelvin Benjamin. I love him. I love the targets he's getting, and yeah, because you're right. Beat writers, they write whatever. They write whatever's going to sell papers or whatever the fuck. And so, yeah, no, definitely. Kelvin Benjamin's a nice play this week, I think, even against Minnesota, especially if Xavier Rhodes can't go.
Benjamin's a great example of sometimes you can over-research stuff because everybody that did the research didn't like Kelvin Benjamin, and everybody that was just like, oh, he was good his rookie year, drafted him, and now they're all it's paying off for them.
Yeah. Another guy that I like, too, that's right outside of my wide receiver ones is Amari Cooper. I like him this week against Tennessee.
I think I like him a lot more than you. I got him at number 9.
Okay.
So would you rather play Cooper or Brandon Cooks?
I'd rather play Brandon Cooks. I got Brandon Cooks at number 8.
Yeah, I would definitely rather play Brandon Cooks. I got him at 7. I'm sorry, I got him at 8. He's a guy. The only thing that worries me about Cooks this week is, he's probably going to get shadowed by Trufant this week, and Trufant is
I'm
a
not
nice
worried
corner.
about that.
Trufant, I think Trufant had the lowest targets of any corner last year. So he's legit, but I agree that Cooks is different because his speed and everything, he can give number one corners a lot of issues that other number one receivers don't typically give them.
Yeah, and that is a good mention too. Like I said, he's definitely not out of my top 10 by any means, but I am a little lower on him this week because of that reason. But sometimes I see him and it's like, how can he run so fast in full pads?
He's what Tavon Austin is supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. But he actually does it successfully.
And he doesn't play for the Rams, so he's just winning.
Yeah, exactly. Winning. Hashtag.
Yep. I think you guys forgot that Tavon Austin is going to get 100 catches this year.
Yeah, he's making $42 million. He better damn well get that many catches.
I mean, how many has now? Like 6?
I think he has 9.
Yeah, out
9?
of 2 games. Oh, and he's this year's Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams, you remember the absurd amount of targets he was getting and then, not doing anything with them? Well, that's Tavon Austin this year. I think he has, 9 through 2 games, and I think he's been targeted, 20-something times.
He has 22 targets. I think he's second in the league in targets. They did, I think ESPN or some fantasy site tweeted out today a side-by-side comparison of Diggs and Tavon Austin have the same exact number of targets. And Diggs has 200-something yards and 2 touchdowns, and Tavon Austin has 43 yards.
There you go. Nothing more needs to be said about that.
Yeah, that's efficiency right there.
Yeah. A guy that's he's right outside of my my top, or he's right at I have him ranked at 20 this week. Marvin Jones against Green Bay. Sam Shields not able to go. I like Marvin Jones a lot this week because they've really been Stafford's loved him, throwing down the field to him. So I think that he's a nice play this week as well.
All the Marvin Jones truthers are laughing at the people that were saying Golden Tate's going to be the man.
Yeah, I was on the Marvin Jones train for sure. I drafted him a little too early. I think I drafted him in the 5th round in one league. But, yeah, I was really high on him, and I'm still high on him. I think that he's the receiver that Matthew Stafford likes, and I think that with the running back situation the way it is, I think Matthew Stafford's going to go back to his old ways and throw the ball 50 fucking times.
See, I agree with you guys. I think Marvin Jones is the number one receiver there. He's been far better the 2 weeks. I actually like Golden Tate over Marvin Jones this week because Golden Tate is that small, shifty receiver, and that's what the Packers struggle with Diggs. Hearns had a big game against them. Jones is more of the Allen Robinson build in terms of a bigger receiver, and they did a good job on him even after Shields went out with Demarius Randall. So I like both guys, but I'm probably the only person other than Golden Tate's mom that likes Golden Tate more than Marvin Jones this week.
I think in order for him to have a big week, he's going to have to get a nice yards after the catch and probably score a touchdown because it seems like they are pretty content with using him around the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, definitely. Another guy too that I don't think is getting talked up enough this week is Jordan Matthews. He's going up against a really suspect secondary in Pittsburgh, and he's obviously the number one target there for a young quarterback. So I think that he'll get leaned on this week.
Yeah, if he could catch a ball, he would have a couple touchdowns this year. I mean, that Monday Night Football drop was terrible.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He's a guy that does struggle with drops, but you can't argue with him being the number one receiver in Philly and, getting those targets that he's getting. But, yeah, it would be really nice if he could hold on to the ball.
One guy I love this week, pretty much every week he's an incredible PPR guy, is Jarvis Landry. He's got 19 targets and 17 catches. They throw him the ball and he catches it. They can't run the ball, and he's basically an extension of their run game. The Browns can't cover. They're going to use Landry a ton, and I think he could have a big week in terms of a 10-catch, 120 yards, and a touchdown kind of game.
I can see that very well. I got him at number 14. Who's a guy that you're not so high on this week that's normally, a top 10 guy?
Well, that's difficult this week, but I'm going to have to say Demaryius Thomas. I don't like him this week. He's usually right on that borderline wide receiver 1 for me, and he's just not fully healthy right now, and since he does have some, I think a better than average secondary, so I'm staying away.
Yeah, I'm pretty low on DT. No, I was just saying I'm pretty low on him as well. I got him at number 26.
The one good news for DT is that he did have a full practice today. But, yeah, I mean, he went from Peyton Manning, even though Peyton Manning wasn't Peyton Manning last year. But, I mean, Trevor Simeon's not exactly going to light it up. But I just want them to bring back the wide receiver screen for Demaryius Thomas because you used to see that once a week go for 80 yards for him. And they've taken that out, and he doesn't seem to be scoring the touchdowns. But one guy that I feel like is an obvious one is A.J. Green, who's normally in your top 5, and that Broncos defense is scary.
Yeah, I got him all the way down number 15. I'm not very high on him at all this week. I do think that he might have a chance for a touchdown, but that's if like he gets actually enough opportunities down there. I don't know how many trips they're actually going to make to the red zone. So.
Yeah, and another guy too. And this is a big if he does play or not. But Sammy Watkins, he's going up against Arizona, who if he does actually play, he's going to get up against Patrick Peterson most likely, or for most or all of the game. He's a definite bench. Even if he's healthy and he goes this week, I still think that I don't play Sammy Watkins this week.
Yeah, I'm definitely sitting him in my work league.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sammy Watkins is a guy you kind of stash for a little while until he proves that he's healthy.
Yeah. I think a nice sleeper, though, this week is Devontae Parker. I think he could definitely be a top 20 wide receiver going forward. I think that he's starting to live up to the hype that we were hyping him up to. He's going up against Cleveland, who, once again, is not scary at all. And, I think that he could have a nice game there.
Smooth transition from A.J. Green to Devontae Parker because same body type, same style of player. I mean, Parker isn't A.J. Green, obviously, but that was kind of his pro comparison. He's a big-time talent. The only thing I worry about is that a lot of his production came in the second half last week when the Patriots were up pretty big. And I don't expect the Browns to be up so big. But if they throw the ball and they give him a chance, he'll murder anyone on the Browns.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't have said it better.
A guy that I'm liking this week is Jeremy Maclin. I have him at number 21. He's going at home against the Jets. I'm looking to see if he can burn Revis down the sidelines, what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's an interesting take because, usually that's untreaded water where people are like, yeah, Revis Island, that's what's happening over there. But, yeah, he's been getting burnt lately by teams' number 1 receivers, and I think that won't change this week. I think that Revis is going to get burnt again and prove that he'll be out of the league in a couple of years.
Well, as a Jets fan, I don't like any of what you just said, but being unbiased, you can't really argue that he's gotten burnt. I mean, the A.J. Green thing, you're supposed to have safety help. The safety didn't help, and he got burned by Marcus Goodwin where he just didn't turn his hips and watch an Olympic sprinter run right by him. Like, that's not the only route he can't run. Their grumblings that Revis kind of didn't work hard in the offseason, and I mean, he's been chirping at other NBA players and stuff like that. So like saying, like, what happened to Revis Island? I think it's in his head a little bit. He's not the same player that he was, obviously.
Yeah.
I like Macklin, but they're guys that I would play over him, like a Larry Fitzgerald, Travis Benjamin, Stephon Diggs, Willie Snead. I'd probably put over Macklin.
Now, since
I have Snead a spot in front of him. I have Hilton, Marshall, if he plays, and I also have Dez in front of him as well.
Yeah, now as a Jets fan, I know this is purely speculation, but I just wanted to get your crystal ball prediction. Do you think Marshall will play this week?
I mean, if there's the toughest player on the Jets is Brandon Marshall. I mean, I remember on the Bears 2 years ago, he punctured his lung, couldn't breathe, and walked off the field. I mean, everyone thought he tore his ACL when that happened. If there's one guy that can play through a knee sprain, it's him. I mean, I'd probably put it at 60-40 he plays. If he doesn't play, obviously Decker gets bumped up. Quincy Enunwa becomes a big-time play because he's been really good this year. But if Marshall does play, he's going to he should eat Marcus Peters for lunch. I mean, Peters is a big name because of all the interceptions, but
He blows a lot of coverages.
Yeah,
he blows a lot of coverages.
yeah, I was saying that too, man. I am not high on Peters at all. I love talking shit about him. I think that he's so overrated. I think that he's his stock's way up because of the interceptions, but I think that if Marshall or whoever plays, I think that he's going to get burnt.
Yeah, well, the average fan looks at very basic stats and spits them out as to why someone's better. So, I mean, Marcus Peters apparently was the best corner in the NFL because he led the league in interceptions. But if you watched him play, it's because they picked on him all day long.
Yeah, that was teams were, including Peyton Manning before. Well, and he wasn't the same Peyton Manning, but he picked on him all game week 2 last year, and I watched it happen. Yeah, fuck Peters.
Yeah, that's coming straight out of the Broncos' mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to name off some people. I want you to tell me, like, what do you see their ceiling as this week? Tajay Sharp, he's going up against Oakland. Where do you see his ceiling at this week?
I mean, I think as a number one receiver on a team, I think that, you obviously the sky's the limit on this one. I think that Mariota's still having some growing pains turning the ball over. I say that I could definitely see him getting a touchdown and maybe about 60 to 80 yards.
Yeah, I would say that realistically, I would say 6 to 7 catches, 80 yards, and I don't know, 40% chance of touchdown. His ceiling, because of how bad the Raiders have been and the fact that Mariota throws the ball to Delanie Walker, Tajay Sharp, or DeMarco Murray, I mean, you got to say his ceiling is probably 100 yards and 8 catches, and a touchdown.
I mean, I could definitely see him getting 100 yards. I think I have him more around like 75 for like 7. But yeah, that's definitely a ceiling. I think of 100 yards. The next guy I want to talk about is Philip Dorsett. He's going to be in place of Deontay Moncrief. He is going up against who is Indianapolis? Going up against San Diego. Where do you see his ceiling at?
Oh man, I love this play, especially for guys. I know my brother's one of those guys. He had Moncrief go down, and he had Philip Dorsett on his bench, so he just pops him right in his lineup. So that was a nice little draft play right there. But yeah, I think that the sky's the limit for this one because we all know this is a high-volume passing offense, so I could definitely see him going off. I'll probably throw my prediction at. I could say his ceiling could be 12 catches, 120 yards,
wow.
And then a good chance of a touchdown too.
Wow.
I mean, I thought I was high on him, but I would say his ceiling is what Travis Benjamin did last week.
That's fair.
In terms of he's going to get targets, he's explosive. I mean, he's probably a top 10 fast guy, speed guy in the NFL. He can get behind people, but he's not just a speed guy. He's got a good route tree. He can catch the football, and Andrew Luck is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So if you give me a guy with all that talent and is going to see 8 to 10 targets, I mean, you got to play him.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely an excellent daily fantasy player too.
Yeah, he's super cheap. I think he's 4.4 on DraftKings, and I want to say he's 6,000 on FanDuel. I mean, you plug him in your lineup, and you can start getting a lot of good players in there.
Oh yeah.
All right. Another guy I want to bring up is Tyrell Williams. He had a nice long crossing route last week that broke a couple tackles for a touchdown. Where do you see his ceiling against Indianapolis?
You can't argue with the matchup. I love the matchup. I'm really high on this guy. I think that he's, it's just like we were talking about Keenan Allen, but faster. And I'll put a ceiling at 8 catches, somewhere around 70 to 90 yards. I would say there's a decent shot of him getting a touchdown.
No, that sounds realistic, not over the top. I mean, the Colts corners basically used to be Browns players. They're terrible. I mean,
yeah.
With Vontae Davis out, they're starting Antonio Cromartie. I mean, that guy's terrible. So it doesn't really matter who you throw out there. If you're playing the Colts, you get a big plus of pumping ranking that week. But yeah, Tyler Williams could definitely get in the end zone and put up 80 yards.
I think I got his ceiling probably like 5 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. I like the fact that he had just as many targets as Travis Benjamin. I will say, though, I would wish that he would catch more of those targets because he only caught half his targets. So.
Yeah, definitely. But you got to, with the injury to Keenan Allen and then Danny Woodhead as well, I think that he's going to see an even bigger increase in volume this week too. So even if he only catches half his targets, you still got to like where he's going to go with that San Diego offense.
All right. Is there anyone else you guys want to mention, or can we jump over to tight ends?
Let's jump into tight ends.
All right.
Yeah, the only guy I would mention is that Sterling Shepard might be a good play this week with Norman Odell getting all the attention. Shepard might get the best matchups and kind of could eat them alive.
Yeah,
that's a good point. He will be left alone over there. All right. So I think it goes without saying my number 1 tight end this week is Jordan Reed. I mean, you said it yourself that the Giants don't really cover the tight end very well. I think he's going to have a big game this week.
Yeah, I've been saying that every week. I've had him ranked at number 1 for the last 2 weeks, and it hasn't happened yet. But this is Jordan Reed we're talking about, and it's bound to happen at some point. I think this is a matchup where it's so juicy. So, yeah, Jordan Reed, number 1.
Yeah, hands down, not close. I mean, it's Jordan Reed, and then it's everybody else.
All right. My number 2 this week is Greg Olsen. I have him up against the Minnesota. I mean, you gotta think that he's going to be at least in the mentioning for a touchdown this week. He's been looking pretty good the first 2 weeks, so I think that streak will continue.
Yeah, agreed. One of Cam Newton's favorite targets, and Minnesota. Harrison Smith might come in there and defend the tight end position this week, but I really don't see it really affecting anything too much. I think that Greg Olsen is my number 2 as well.
I have Olsen at 3 for the Harrison Smith factor, and he's done a good job. He shut out Delaney Walker week 1. I mean, the Packers don't have tight ends, but Harrison Smith is one of the better safeties in the NFL. I like Delaney Walker because of his matchup. Mariota feeds him the ball. He just had a great game against the Lions. Raiders can't cover, and they can't cover tight ends, and that kind of adds up to a big week for Delaney Walker.
I agree with that. I got him at number 3. I did think about putting him at number 2, but I got him at number 3. I'm hoping that he finally gets into the end zone. Didn't he score? I think he scored last week, actually.
Yeah, he did. He did score. Yeah, I'm not lower on him by any means, too. I have him at number 3 as well. I think I hate it sometimes how similar me and Johnny rank these, and we have no contact with each other for these rankings either, which is weird. But yeah, Delaney Walker, I think that he's a good bet because of this matchup, and that's really it.
And a guy I have at number 4 is actually Antonio Gates. I think that he's going to have an uptick in volume this week with the injuries to Keenan Allen and Danny Woodhead. He's going up against Indianapolis, who doesn't really cover tight ends very well. I have him at number 4.
Okay, fuck you, dude. I don't know how we rank these guys so similarly, but yes, I have Antonio Gates at number 4 for the Indianapolis defense factor. So, yeah.
Colts can't cover people. They'll throw at the Gates. Makes sense.
Then number 5, I have Travis Kelce. He's going to go to the Jets. I'm a little bit skeptical about this one, but the Jets haven't really been defending the pass very well themselves, so I got him at number 4. I'm sorry, number 5.
Yeah, I have Julius Thomas at number 5. Once again, I think I've beaten the dead horse here, but Baltimore got fucking lit up by Cleveland. So, needless to say, Julius Thomas, and he's getting more targets this year than he did last year, and he looks fully healthy. So, yeah, Julius Thomas, number 5.
The only thing is, the Ravens last year weren't the best against the tight end, but Eric Weddle's made a difference. And the Jets have been pretty good against the tight end, too. Kelce, God, I wish he was on a different team because he's so good, but the Chiefs, they don't give him the ball enough.
They don't.
Yeah.
We weren't far off on Julius Thomas. I got him at number 6. My number 7 guy I have is Dennis Pitta. The reemergence of Dennis Pitta, I think, is a guy that they really don't have like a number 2 guy over there. So I think that's going to be his role because it seems like it's Mike Wallace, and then you got like other people just rotating in behind him. So.
Yeah, back from the dead all of a sudden. But no, then I have Travis Kelce at number 6. But my number 7 is Jason Witten, Chicago defense, and he's Dak Prescott's security blanket, so that's why I have him ranked so high.
I like both of those guys. Pitta back from the hip injury, and the Jacksonville Ravens game, the Jaguars Ravens game should have a lot of passes. And Flacco's last year was on pace for a career high, and this year he's on pace for a career high in passes as well. And you got to go to somebody. And Danny Trevathan is I think one of the top linebackers in terms of covering the tight end, and he's out this week. So Jason Witten should have a nice day.
Yeah.
I got Witten at number 9. Cause I got Ebron and Dwayne Allen in front of him. I am a little bit worried about Ebron's injury, but I do think he's going to play and be fine. Dwayne Allen, him and Doyle have been utilized pretty well so far this year. So I think I'd like one of them to get a touchdown at least.
I think one of them will too, because especially now that Dante Moncrief being the big body that he is in the end zone and a nice red zone target, I think that's going to actually help out Allen and Doyle. Depending on who does end up getting that touchdown, that remains to be seen. But I think that one of them is definitely a good bet to get a touchdown because of the absence of Moncrief.
Yeah, I think if you really want to punt and just take a complete chance that no one else is going to own on DraftKings or FanDuel, Doyle's been getting looks from Luck, and it's a game where Doyle could probably catch a touchdown and 4 passes for 40 yards, and you can pick up points on people there, but Allen is definitely probably the guy to own.
Yeah, it's interesting to know that it looks like the Colts are going to move to more 2 tight end sets now with Moncrief out as well. So
it'll be interesting to see how that affects them, because the whole offseason was about being 3 wide with 1 tight end. Moncrief goes out, and that kind of could lead to more running. I wonder. I mean, I have no data to back it up.
Hurt the efficiency of the Colts offense? Because, I mean, they're already getting off to slow starts.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where you wonder if Luck's always gotten off to slow starts. The Colts, that's kind of what they do. But spreading teams out, that can really take advantage of matchups. But if you pack it in, all of a sudden you have 2 receivers that have 2 corners. You're not getting one of the corners on a linebacker or something. Sorry, one of the receivers on a linebacker.
I mean, it could lead to a more predictable offense, which could make them easier to stop. It's kind of like what the Lions were a couple years ago, where they're just having like the most like predictable calls, and everyone was shutting them down. I think that could be something that could happen to Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something worth monitoring. I mean, fire up all your Colts this week, but I'm curious to see if anyone's production goes down because they're going to play 2 tight ends more.
All right. Is there any good streaming options you guys want to mention at tight end?
Before we go into that, I just want to ask real quick. Let's assume that Gronkowski plays this week. Where do you guys see him fitting into this ranking? You know what I mean?
I think I'd probably put him at like 4 or 5.
I mean, I'd put him at 3 just because I think the Texans win that game. You're talking about Jacoby Brissett is going to play, and he's going to have to throw the ball. And if you had to throw the ball to somebody, it'd probably be Gronk. That guy's a matchup nightmare and a red zone threat. And after the top 3 guys, and Reed, Olsen, and Walker, I mean, I can't say that I put any of them over the talent of Gronkowski.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't put Gronkowski in my rankings, nor did I put Martellus Bennett, because I'm not sure if Gronk's going to play or not. So I'd left both of those guys out of my rankings. So, but if I had to rank them, I'd probably put them at like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I put him right at 5, just because I think that Antonio Gates should be a lock for a top 5 because of the matchup.
You know, a guy that I think it could be an interesting play, and he's actually a tight end 1 right now, is Kyle Rudolph, who's available in many leagues actually. So I think if you need to play a tight end, say your tight end's hurt or you're not performing well, I think that Kyle Rudolph could be an interesting stream.
Every time I play Kyle Rudolph sucks. So he's kind of one of those guys for me that I don't play. But your logic makes sense. But just because, I mean, Kyle Rudolph seems to hate my fantasy team, I don't play Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
Who do you guys got as interesting streamers this week?
I just thought it was worth mentioning. I do like Clive Walford from the Raiders this week. Even though this is an improved Tennessee defense, I still like him this week. I think that Tennessee was one I would like to say I didn't actually research for the fact, but I don't think they were exactly great against the tight end position, and Clive Walford's turned into a nice little target for Derek Carr.
Walker would be a good stream play. I mean, he's a talented tight end that continues to get better. I mean, you basically throw out a rookie tight end season, and the second year is when they start to make strides, and that's what he seems to be doing. Two guys I like as streamers because of the matchup is Jacob Tamme. He seems to be involved in the Falcons' passing attack, and you want to get guys in that game. And if Coby Fleener and Drew Brees can finally learn how to connect, the Saints throw the tight end all the time, and I'm hoping that it starts working in one of these weeks. I think this could be a week that it does.
Yeah, I actually like Jacob Tamme, too. I have him ranked number 11 this week. I do think he'll be a tight end 1. I got Fleener just outside that. I got number 13, just on the simple fact that he isn't on the same page with Drew Brees. He seems to short run a lot of his routes, and they're just not on the same page. So he does have a great matchup, though. So
I'll tell you, one guy I was real high on this year was Gary Barnidge. And Josh McCown became the quarterback. I started celebrating because he was a top 10 tight end every single week with Josh McCown. Now Josh McCown goes back out. And I like Barnidge the talent, but I don't think I'd play him this week with Cody Kessler as his quarterback.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate because he's the only healthy target over there.
Yeah, he's one of the only difference makers over there, which really doesn't make any sense in Cleveland. But a guy that I like this week is another streaming option, just to briefly touch on, Jesse James for Pittsburgh. I don't think the Phillies is a very good team to defend the tight end position. And, Big Ben likes to target the tight end in the red zone, a nice big target. So I think that if he gets a touchdown, I think that's easy reasonability to put him in your lineup in your tight end position.
All right. I think that'll just about do it. Do you guys have any other last words?
Only thing we didn't touch on is that if the Dolphins' defense is available on your waiver wire, which it was going into this week, I would play them.
Yeah,
they are widely available.
Doesn't get much better than that. I grabbed them in, I think, 1 or 2 leagues, and I love it.
Yep. But great work, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for joining us, man. You're a great matchup. Or you're a great match, I'm sorry.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
You're a great matchup. I want you in my lineup.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for today's show. Please follow us on Twitter at the Fifth Down FF, and please subscribe and review us on iTunes, please. And that'll do it for today's show.
And we'll buy you a hooker.
Yeah, well, no, not until we get paid.
True. Yeah. We have a full payday for that.
All right, peace out, Fifth Downers.